Hi, my crafting friends. Today I want to show the Holly Jolly bundle. This is really a fun bundle because it's something a little bit unique that we're not quite used to in the die cuts. And so I want to show you that. This is in the online exclusives. There's always some really fun things in the online exclusives, and this one doesn't disappoint. I think that we get a lot of interesting, in fact, oh my goodness, I'm going to tell you something that's coming. I just happened to get, we get to see what's coming up the next month, and we get to pre-order stuff that's coming up the next month, and there's a inside little insert that you can put in your cards to make them pop-ups. It's super cute. Anyway, that's coming up. But this is also, I just had to tell you that because I thought it was really cute. I love when they do things that are just a little bit different. Simple, but different. So this die set is a mess, as you can see, and that's because of the technique I'm going to do. I forgot to clean it before I put it down. Anyway, these dies, it's a big die, and you'll notice that it goes onto this embossing folder, and you can run it through the machine at one time, which is cool. I love that. It's the hybrid embossing folders, and then there's a coordinating stamp set, and it's just really fun. Now the dies also cut out some of these images like the bells and the flower and the holly, and then there's also this little joy and the little sprig. The words are really nice because you can put them together. You can do a scripty happy and then a more printed Christmas or Merry Christmas, or you could do the printed happy and put it above the Christmas, or Merry and put it like really small right here above the Christmas. So you can kind of mix and match or do them both really fancy. I love the mixed fonts, so that's kind of a fun look, and you get to do it either way. And then there's the Have a Merry Christmas. So it's just really fun to mix and match. That way you can get different colors going and things like that. And I really like this set. I think it's really fun. So anyway, but the dies, I just wanted to get them because I thought they were interesting. So here's what we're gonna do. We are going to make a card. Actually, let me see. I'm just going to show you several of them, but what this die does is it doesn't cut all the way. It's still connected in little spaces here and there. So the cut line stops and then starts again often, so that the holly stays attached to the paper. And that's interesting. Now you could cut them off. Some of them just have a little slit, so if you wanted to cut off a little holly so you could use it as a 3D holly embellishment on a card, that's easy to do. You could just easily snip that right off and you'd have holly embellishments that you can use anywhere. But it's really fun to leave them, and the sample online kind of showed them tucking in. I love that they give two of these too, tucking in the little greeting behind some of the holly. So that's what I'm going to try. I'm kind of going to try the way they used it first. I like to do that because I mean, the artisans who design these cards make some really cool things. So I think it's always fun to kind of recreate them, but change them up a little bit. So that's what I'm doing. I'm kind of recreating that one you can see online, but changing it up a little bit to make it my own. Okay, so this, we're going to use this. I've already pre-cut our labels. So I've got, and they're just super nice. You can use one, or you can nest them together like this, so then you've got a nice border, and that's what I'm going to do. So I cut the bigger one out in shaded spruce and then the smaller one in just basic white, and it's really nice to have these labels. It's a nice size, so you're going to use that with other stamp sets as well. And then I love the word joy. We're not going to use that today, but I do like words. I do like word dies. They're nice for scrapbook pages too, so I like those. Okay, we're going to use the embossing folder, and we're going to use shaded spruce. So this is our base card, shaded spruce, and then I needed a piece of soft seafoam, and that looks really nice together. It's like a very muted down version. It still has that brightness. It's funny how there are some greens that don't look good together. These two look really great together, so I love this combination. In fact, I think Stampin' Up! Must like it as well, because they came out with a ribbon where one side is shaded spruce and one side is soft seafoam. Isn't that fun? So I can't decide if I'm going to use this or if I'm going to use some kind of baker's twine. Haven't decided. And then for a pop of color, we're going to use a tiny bit of red. But the first thing I want to do is this embossing folder, because this is the fun part. Actually, the first thing I want to do is get rid of this stamping. I want to do this part. I shouldn't say get rid of, but it's the simplest, easiest thing. So I'm just going to do it so it's done and I don't have to worry about it. So let's do that really quick. I've got Bright and Happy Christmas Wishes. And I'm going to use Poppy Parade as my red. It's like a nice little pop of red. So there's that. I'm going to set that over here. And then on the inside of my card, I cut another piece of basic white, and it's just 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm going to use the sentiment stamp that comes with the same stamp set, and it says, "May the spirit of the season bring you hope, happiness, and love." So I like that. I'm going to put that right in the center. And I'm just bringing a little bit of the red to the inside, so I went with the poppy again. And then I also wanted to bring some holly to the inside, so I'm going to use that little holly stamp that's in the set. Oops. And I'm going to just do that off to the side. All right, so very simple stamping. Now here you can color with a variety of things. I'm going to use the markers. I don't know if you noticed, but Stampin' Up! Is going to stop selling these markers because they don't want to have the blends and the markers, especially now that we're just going to go with photopolymer. But these are on sale right now in the last chance list. So you can pick them up at a little bit of a discount, and they're all still our Stampin' Up! Colors. So I'm going to hang on to mine, even though they're not going to be for sale because they're so easy to work with. Now I do like the Stampin' Blends, so that's another option. If you have the Stampin' Blends, there is Shaded Spruce and Poppy in the blends, and the blends are nice because you get a light and a dark, and you'll notice that this one I only have the one color, I only have the dark, so I can't do a lot of different techniques, but I've decided that that's okay. This is a possible card buffet card, and I try to make them a little bit simpler because people like to make cards in bulk at Card Buffet. Okay, and I'm gonna have to clean that up. Okay, so that's my inside. My stamping is done. So let's go ahead. Actually, let me glue this. I like to get all my little things done so that I don't drop them or lose them and have to find them later. I'm gonna go ahead and glue this down. Okay, now let's do an embossing folder. Okay, setting that aside. Picking up this embossing folder and this piece of soft seafoam. Don't need that anymore. All right, where is the embossing folder? All right, now I'm going to get messy here. In fact, you can probably see that my hands are pretty inky, and my desk was inky. And that's because I wasn't paying attention. So I was just, you know, in the midst and having fun. All right, so the embossing folder, you've got two sides, obviously. Now the side we want to put the ink on is the side with the label. Okay, so let's do that. And my ink pads are always a mess. I like to paint with them and do all kinds of things, and they just become quite a mess. So that's why my hands, my desk, everything is a mess. So I'm going to go ahead and get this folder all inky. Now it's getting really deep in here, but don't worry about it. That's not gonna, and you can use this without the dye and get a really fun background look as well. In fact, I should do that because I haven't done that yet. I've made a few cards and I didn't try that. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that next, but right now I want to cut. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is put this down. And when you're putting it down, you'll see that you can kind of find the shapes that work. So I'm going to go ahead and put it down. I'm trying not to get my fingers inky. So, I'm going to hold it in an area where there's a lot of metal. And actually, I put it down right in spot. But you can normally, if it's not in the right spot, you can kind of jiggle it around a little bit, and then it kind of falls into place because it really does want to line up perfectly. And there's a slight ridge from that embossed area that's sticking up. So once they're all into place, you'll feel it. You'll know. All right, so then we're going to go ahead and we're going to stick our paper. So one thing I want you to know, if you didn't have that metal there, then the ink that's on that you saw that I got a lot of ink on there, that will hit the background of the paper. But that metal is going to give a little bit of lift, so I'm not going to get as much ink as it looks like I'm going to get. I'll show you that when I'm done. But so here we're going to close it. And now we've got this mess. So see this area that's all really inky? It's not going to look like that because that metal is keeping just enough lift from that area that you're not going to get this really dark. Okay, so let me show you what happens. Okay, so this is a 3D hybrid embossing folder. So that means we just need the very base plate and the gray plate that comes with your machine. Oops. My desk right now is so messy that I have no space for this. It's crazy. If you're a demonstrator, how do you keep your desk nice and neat when you're doing classes? I would love to know. Part of it is that I'm working in kind of a small room. I have the smallest spare room in the house. Okay, let's reveal. All right, so this is inky. Your hands are going to get inky, so watch it. And then we need this little piece. Don't lose that. All right, I'm going to set this aside. So this is also inky because it was sitting on there and you can see, and it doesn't look like it was inky, and that was my mistake. I didn't look at it and notice that it really is got a slight sheen of green all over it. And then I put it down on here to put it away, and I got ink everywhere and my hands. It was a mess. So don't forget to clean this. And it's funny because I ran the embossing folder in the sink. Beautiful, cleaned great. Completely forgot about this. And I had green everywhere. Okay, I want to tell you so you don't do the same thing as me. So here is our piece. So you see these little pieces that came off the side there. Just hang on to them. And there it is. So remember how I was saying you're not going to get that whole solid green that was up here. I got a tiny bit in the corner, but that's it. Looks great. And it just has that detail in all the little areas where the raised edges were. So that's really fun. Now the first thing I want to do is I'm going to grab my Poppy Parade marker and I'm going to turn these berries red. So I'm just going to use the brush tip. Again, these are on sale right now, but if you don't have these, you can use the Stampin' Blends, which I did do on another one, and I liked that there was, I used the light Stampin' Blends, and they looked nice. Now I'm not going to do this guy because he's going to be covered up. I think he'll be covered up too. This one might be covered up, but I'm going to do it just in case. All right. So then I grabbed my Wink of Stella and I gave them a little shimmer. They look pretty already. Okay, and then we're gonna have some fun. So I've got my card base, I've got this top. Now I'm gonna flip it over. I think that Wink of Stella is probably dry. And I'm gonna add adhesive only on the areas where there's no holly, because I'm gonna do some fluffing of those, and I'll show you how that works. So I'm gonna put the adhesive kind of on these flat areas. I'm just going to kind of look around, and you can see the cut edge. Maybe you don't see it in the video, but if you were looking at it up close, you would see it. And I'm going to okay, I think I got everywhere I wanted to get. All right, maybe right there. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and put this on my card base like so. And I'm going to press down where I know there's adhesive everywhere where there's not a holly berry, I drew a little bead of adhesive. Okay, all right, so the next thing you want to do is fluff. Now this little guy, remember I said we wanted to hang on to him? We're gonna put him up on a, see, look, I got green on my little, I have green everywhere. There we go. I'm gonna put this guy up on a little dimensional so he's puffed up. And I'm gonna do this one too. Actually, I might glue this one down just because it's barely hanging on there. All right, now you need to find something that works. And you can do this before you glue down, but I actually found that it was easier after I glued it down because I was able to hold parts that I wanted to not puff up down and then use my stylus. Now, if you don't have a stylus, you can look for something like, oh, maybe the end of a paintbrush, or maybe you've got some little tool that's not, you don't want anything really sharp. And all I'm doing is I'm going to come over, I'm going to lift up my holly, and I'm going to run the edge along the leaf, and just kind of, I'm holding it down, and then I'm just kind of running it underneath and curling it slightly, just giving it a little lift. And I'm not going to do every single one. I'm just doing a select few. I'm just kind of rounding. So I like that the stylus has got a ball at the end, so you can, it kind of doesn't give a sharp crease. And it's smaller. You can do this, if you don't put it on your card, you can do it with a bone folder. But I just really found that these guys are so little and delicate that having the rest of the card glued down helped me a little bit. So then I'm just puffing some of them up and they're starting to come alive. And so I want this one up. I'm only doing a few. Once I put the sentiment down, I'll decide what other ones maybe need to come up too. I'm avoiding this middle here, these two, because I haven't decided yet if they're in the way. And I love that there's a background that's a darker color, because see how you've got that darker color peeking through now that I've lifted slightly? So that's showing through, and that is really fun. So I like that. All right, I'm going to show you some other, there we go. So I think I'm going to be done with my little lip. No, I want to do this guy too. I mean, you could do all of them. It's fun. Just takes a second. There. And I think it really does add some fun dimension. So here's our little words, and what I'm going to do is tuck them so I can decide, do I want it under here? And sometimes it depends, like what I didn't super measure, you know, where things go, or if this was going to be on the top or bottom, so I might decide that that's distracting and I don't want that one there, and instead I want the bottom one, so like the bottom on the side, and that one kind of hangs down maybe in front of the H a little too much and I don't like it. So you can kind of decide based on, you know, where yours landed, if you want to add this little guy, or maybe I'll decide that guy, or maybe the bow goes there. So you can kind of decide based on, there we go. So I'm going to puff that guy up, and isn't that fun? It just like tucks right in there. I'm going to pull it up just slightly so it's more centered. Yeah, so I'm going to leave that holly down and this one, but I think I'll puff up these two, at least one of those. So that looks really fun. Now I want these to stay puffed, so what you can do is you can add one of these little dimensionals behind, and that is going to help them stay puffed up a little bit, so that when the recipient gets it, because if you put it in the mail, it might get squished a little bit, and that'll help it stay a little bit more puffied. The first time I did this, I put a dimensional behind all the holly before I stuck it down to the page, but then some are behind here and I wasn't sure where I wanted them, so I decided it's best to kind of tuck them in after the fact, and it's kind of messy, but let me, kind of my trial and error. Okay, let me see if I want to puff up anymore. Oh, it might be enough. Maybe this guy, because he's front and center at the top there. Give him a little something, and maybe this one. Okay, now I'm going to show you some other ones, and I can't decide what to put on there as far as something extra, like a little ribbon, and I think I want it right here. And I looked and looked and looked for my, there's red and white striped baker's twine that I thought would look super cute on this nice red and white, and I can't find it anywhere. I think my cat took it. That's what's missing from my desk. Here's that shaded spruce and soft seafoam. Maybe I should turn it the other way. Can't just, super cute. I like it either way. So that's this one, and here's where I did it. This was the first one I did, and I just used soft seafoam as the background, and I really think something about the deeper color. Now maybe you're a softer person and this softer one speaks to you, and you can, instead of using shaded spruce, which is really deep, you can go with a gold or something and put a nice gold. That would make it really soft, whereas this is really bright with those sharp lines. This kind of reminds me of a block carving, so like that. All right, and then I tried putting some gold twine on there since I couldn't find my red and white. I was really bummed. So that's this one. And then I found red baker's twine, and that one's okay, but I really think the red and white would have been better. And then this one I didn't put any, and I think that's totally fine too. And you can see how they're all a little bit different, because this one I did bring out this other holly. This one I had it upside down, or not, you know, there is no right or wrong, but like you'll notice the cut was a little higher, so I was able to get this bottom one on that one, but not on this one. So you kind of can play around with that and see what you think. So isn't that fun? It's just a fun little card, and I really enjoyed it. I think that this will be a fun card buffet card, because I think people will enjoy this different die. What do you think? I think it's really cute. All right, thank you so much for watching. Bye.